Mahoney and Councilmember Buxton. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
He is excused. At this point, we come back to our appointment process to the vacant council position, and we will be starting with the deliberation part of the process. The way this process works is that each council member can nominate one candidate, and only one. The nominations do not require a second. And then once we have the nominations completed, we'll close the nominations and we'll go into discussion. And I will start the nominations. I will nominate Louisa Banks. Are there any others?
Nominate Harry Steinmetz.
Okay, so we have Louisa Banks and Harry Steinmetz.
I'd like to nominate Samira Nalaki. I hope I pronounced that correctly, sir.
Okay. I'm gonna have to look down. I've got to see how to write. I'm sorry, I have to look at how to write his name down. Got it. Any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, nominations are now closed. Is there anyone who would like to start comment?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, we'll start with Councilmember Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first of all, thank you all for being here. There are probably a gajillion other things you could be doing on a Thursday night, so appreciate you all coming out to be part of this process, whether it's this appointment or to enjoy this amazing presentation we'll have here in a few minutes. So thank you. And in the candidates, thank you so much for not just being here tonight, but for opening your lives up to this process that can be a little bit grueling. So you've opened your life and your time up to this, so thank you for taking a risk and putting yourself out there. I appreciate you doing that. So I'm going to read to you 4 statistics, make 2 observations, then I'm going to tell you about my decision. So there are 7 people in front of me who would make great colleagues, and I hope to work with side by side with every single one of you in the near future. 4 of you reached out to me, and 3 of you for a face-to-face conversation. 3 of these candidates had spent time in these council chambers. 2 of them risked their time, finances, dignity, and heart in running campaigns to come out on the other side as first-rate class acts, professional, gracious, humble, and tenacious, admirable in every respect. Couple of observations. Clear vision, experience, business acumen, collaborative teamwork, and focus are essential in helping to move forward this $100 million corporation with several lines of business and 175 employees. Another observation is diversity challenges are poignant issues in this council. About my decision. To be transparent, there's been quite a bit of chatter on social media about backdoor politics and the fact that this decision has been made for a long time and that the process was unnecessary because we had already made up our minds. I want to make it very clear from my perspective. This has been a fierce struggle for me. Difficult going to sleep and difficult when I wake up in the morning. I had several of these people were key candidates for me. I did not make my decision until earlier this week, and with several conversations and one very lengthy face-to-face with one of the candidates after the panel interview. So after all the essential boxes were checked for me, I had narrowed down my choice, and the next most powerful consideration for me was gender and diversity. So I have no doubt about my decision. I feel like I've made a strong decision. I feel like we will be, regardless of whether my decision happens or not, I feel like I am inviting a strong, intelligent, well-spoken, professional candidate to sit with me on this team and move the city forward. So I'm looking forward to this tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I do also want to thank all the applicants. It was exciting to see your energy, the new faces. I think you've got some great things to offer the community. I narrowed it down to two candidates, and that was Harry Steinmetz and Louisa Bangs. The others, Tad, you've done some great work in the community. My kind of feedback is I'd like to see you at a few more council meetings to understand the workings of that, and I think you go forward. The rest of you who applied, I was very impressed with you, and I'd like to get you plugged into the community. You have my offer to get you plugged into the volunteer organizations, and I also would like to see you at city council meetings, because basically the first time I saw you was here, and I think building relationships is very important, and if you want that, I'll open the door for you. I offer that service. Louisa and Harry are both fixtures in the community. They both represent neighborhoods and people in the community. Both have run for election and lost an election. But I'm not going to consider that as a factor. I know that was brought up that we should consider that. And I don't think it wasn't part of the process, shouldn't be, so I discounted that. And I think both have done almost everything they could possibly do to earn this position. But unfortunately, I can't choose both of them today. I had a discussion with somebody I respect quite a bit about this issue. And the advice they gave me was that I need to choose the best person for right now. Harry, it pains me that it's not going to be you today. I think you're one of the finest individuals in this community, and I'm hoping that you run in 2021. As your friend, this was not an easy decision. I chose Louisa for these reasons. She's up to speed and has been a catalyst for our marina and downtown development plans. There was a point that, Harry, you represent the South, and I truly acknowledge that. Louisa represents 42% of the population of our people of color. That was important to me, and 52% of our women. And this is all statistics according to the U.S. Census. Vic Pennington endorsed Louisa, who I highly respect, and it was his chair that was vacated. Another reason is we're in a real unusual time. The newness of the council, it's been no secret, and it's been obvious we've struggled to be cohesive. And that's still in the process. We're working with each other, trying to figure each other out. And I think Louisa brings stability at this point from my personal perspective. And the last comment I have is that we have made a lot of decisions that have been controversial lately, but it's about getting the development downtown. We have real investors here. We have real developers here that are interested in our community and actually making a change. And I believe the confidence in this council is better solidified by Louisa at this time. Thank you.
Any other council members? Councilmember Harris.
Friends, this is, if nothing else, a political appointment. There is this idea that I've expressed to several of the applicants that city council in a small town is a bit like summer vacation 150 years ago, all right? We are all people who work day jobs and get together in a collegial fashion in the evening for a couple of hours and work out some simple things, and there is only one obvious solution to problems. Nothing could be further from the truth. Running a city of this size is extremely complex. And it's amazing that it is possible with part-timers such as ourselves. I did not nominate Louisa Bangs because, I mean, you know, it's weird to talk about who you didn't, simply because I thought it was undemocratic. The idea that her appointment would add to the cohesiveness could not be further from the truth. Who I nominated precisely because I thought that he would do a very good job on a temporary basis until the election. I believe in elections, okay? We've had many appointments over the last 30 years. We've had many uncontested elections. We've had fewer truly competitive campaigns than we have competitive campaigns. There's been a dearth of good candidates, and it's been kind of a good old boys network. And in my opinion, that is one reason why the city has not moved forward as well as it could have. All of the candidates would have done a fine job. Don't think otherwise. I am rooting for several of you to run in 2021 because I want to see another really healthy campaign. I just think that's how you get the highest quality council members. But I wanted someone who I thought would do a good job for the next 20 months or so, diligently and with sincerity, and this was not their idea of a long game necessarily. So that was what was in my mind. Thank you.
Echoing what others have said, thank all of you, all the candidates. I think we were all quite impressed by those who applied and the group that was here. I motioned to appoint Harry Steinmetz for a number of reasons. He has been an incredibly active, consistent member of our community for many years. Obviously ran a few years ago and got near 50% of the vote. His experience is quite incredible and I think would be incredibly valuable here up at the dais. Not only has he been a former prosecutor, criminal defense attorney, worked for years on the state level, with as a state legislative staffer. And on top of all that, on top of me personally supporting him, I've spoken with dozens and dozens of people in the community, both social media, emails, phone calls, in person. And the vast, vast, vast majority have told me they want Harry Steinmetz to appoint or fill this vacancy. So given that we, as I mentioned last meeting, are here to represent the people, I think that we should take that into consideration. So for both of those reasons, that's why I support Harry for this appointment. Thank you.
I was the one who nominated Louisa, and I did so after careful thought. There has been a lot of discussion. I've received probably many of the same communications. I have had the opportunity to speak to people from North Hill to as far as the Woodmont Redondo area. They consistently say they are looking for the quality representation and they are praying for us. And I do appreciate that. However, where my head went and where I settled in on my discussion with myself and others is that we are on a forward trajectory and we are doing well with it. I know it's difficult because there are some things you can't see, like land acquisitions and people coming down and wanting to tour to see what their opportunities are within the city of Des Moines. I can remember the day when we would make the call to various people and invite them down, and they would either not answer, not call back, or not come. Now they're trying to get time with the city manager and his team to see what the opportunities are here. I feel that we need someone that can consistently work with not just the public, which is also very important to what we do, but also work with our labor groups, who understands our budgeting, who can work with the team that is at the city, and work with a number of our volunteer bases. And Louisa has proven herself there in all areas. She's fierce at negotiations. She's understands budgeting. She is a champion for economic development and understanding. She has tremendous management experience and tremendous political prowess when she deals with electeds that are outside of the city and in other organizations. And I will say, Mr. Steinmetz, there are many skills that you have that really had me playing tennis in my head. And I want to encourage all of those who came out and put their hat in the ring. I will extend the same offer that Deputy Mayor Mahoney has to meet with you and help you get plugged into the process so you can really see how it's done, what the challenges are that we go through. It's hard for me to articulate just how much I appreciate every one of you for putting your hat in the ring, but not just because that takes a certain level of fortitude. You presented yourselves with professionalism. You endured an interview process in the public at a podium under time constraints, which is not unlike what we often have to do. So in an on-the-job kind of test, you all did very, very well. It really came down as I was looking at who answered the questions and how they answered them. I was looking for a certain level of understanding and so forth. And where I saw the gaps, I look and I say, we can help fill those in for you. So I will give each one of you my card if you are interested and want to call and you're serious about getting involved and looking to the future. I'd love to be one that you can consult with. So that concludes the remarks.
May I say one more thing?
Yes.
The last election was a change election. And the choice is, are you happy with the path that the city has been on? Or would you like to see us handle certain key items in a different way? If you choose one candidate, you are saying, okay, great, we're continuing on with the path before. And I believe that was not the will of the voters. I just wanted to, I neglected to mention something very positive about my nominee. The man has good experience with this level of departmental government, and I should have said that. I went off on a tangent, as I'm wont to do, but this is a job of mostly of, details and reading stuff, and like I say, for the next couple of years, it's good to have somebody who has a practical view and is also somebody who is open to change. Thank you.
Any further comment? Okay. Seeing none, the discussion portion is now closed, and I will ask the city clerk to call the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, when I read off your name, please tell me the candidate, one of the three candidates that you are voting for. Thanks. Deputy Mayor Mahoney, which applicant do you vote for?
Louisa Banks.
Thank you. Councilmember Martinelli, which applicant do you vote for?
Harry Steinmetz.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris, which applicant do you vote for?
Harry Steinmetz.
Thank you. Councilmember Buxton, which applicant do you vote for?
Louisa Banks.
Thank you. Mayor Pina, which applicant do you vote for?
Louisa Banks.
Thank you. Mayor, by a vote of 3-2, Louisa Bangs.
Congratulations, Louisa. Do you want to proceed with the swearing in? Okay.
No.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I
am Louisa Bangs,
am Louisa Bangs,
having been duly appointed
having been duly appointed
to the office of
to the office of
Des Moines City Council Member,
Des Moines City Council Member,
position number 3,
position number 3,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of this office
of this office
as prescribed by law
as prescribed by law
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
and that I will support and maintain
and that I will support and maintain
the Constitution of the State of Washington
the Constitution of the State of
and
Washington
of the United States of America.
and of the United States of America.
I need you to sign.
Now that it's official, would you please take your seat at the dais? Our next item on the agenda is, we're very fortunate to have, as we have had good fortune many times, a teacher from Pacific Middle School, Sandy Gady. Did I get that right? Thank you. First of all, I will say to each one of the students that are here as part of the Future Cities presentation, if I say your name wrong, please correct me. I mean no disrespect. I do my best here. Anyway, we're excited to have the middle school students back again. They're presenting their Future Cities model. Their instructor is Sandy Gady, as I mentioned, and we have team, oh boy, and correct me on the team names too, please. Mirai Toshi? Is that correct? Yes. Okay, great. Who placed third in this year's Future Cities regional competition, and they will be presenting to us tonight. I want to note that at the end of the presentation, or when you get to our consent agenda tonight, we do have a proclamation supporting our Future Cities programs. But it has to be voted upon in consent agenda, so I cannot forward it at this time. I will have to wait till after the council makes a vote on consent. So at this point, the floor is all yours. If I could ask the team while you're getting set up, would you, when it comes time to start your presentation, please introduce yourself as you're going through and maybe let us know what your part was in the process, if there was anything special. Otherwise, I don't want to scramble the presentation. Is the light on the microphone there? Is it green? Okay, it's all yours. Please proceed.
I'm Sebastian Cruz.
I'm Dylan Stephanie. I'm Kai Braven. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to City Hunters, where I, your host, Dylan Stephanie, go around the world to different futuristic cities, learning what sets them apart. In today's episode, I'm joined by the mayor of Miratoshi, Kai Braven, and a civil engineer in the city.
Sebastian Cruz.
This city has a population of 30,000 people and is one of the biggest upcoming futuristic cities in the world. After Mount Rainier erupted back in 2032, this is a huge earthquake, creating a major setback for the city. So Sebastian, tell me how your city was able to adjust.
After volcanic eruption spread ash into our water supply and triggered an earthquake which damaged our water pipes, we engineers have come up with an effective solution. Our electric generator pipes will collect water from the Miratoshi, produce energy, and make the water drinkable at the same time. After the water has gone through our pipes, it is collected by our city's water company, Toshi Water Company, also known as TWC. TWC is stationed near the coast of the Puget Sound. The water is transported underground through pipes that lead to large tanks that can hold approximately 1 million gallons. When the water is ready to be treated and tested, it is brought up by more pipes to more tanks that can hold about 100,000 gallons. The water is treated and tested one more time to make sure that it is 100% drinkable. The water is then transported to our city's main buildings through pipes and apartment buildings. It is also offered in biodegradable bottles that are designed to break down much faster than normal plastic bottles and that are made of natural materials such as cornstarch.
Wow, sounds like your city is really cutting down on the plastic use. So Kai, since you are the mayor, you must have a lot on your plate.
Well, Dylan, one of my jobs is to make sure engineers like Sebastian are doing what they should be. Another part of my job is our zoning development. In our city, we have residential, commercial, and industrial zones.
Wow, sounds very important. Maintaining a whole city that's still developing. Now, Sebastian, what is your main role in the city?
Well, for starters, I'm a civil engineer, and my job is to design the places our residents live in and work in. We will plan and design construction and maintenance of our city's structures and infrastructures.
Sounds like you're a busy man. So Kai, I was reading on your website that you have some very advanced apartment homes. Would you like to fill the audience in on how these work?
Yes, Dylan, I would love to. Our apartment homes are welcoming to anybody in our city. On the first floor, we have care for the elderly. This includes a preschool where they can volunteer in, a playground so that they can get exercise, and places for them to rest. On the next floor, we have a store that has anything anyone ever needs for food. The next few floors are for actual living spaces. Finally, on the last floor, we have a school from K through 12th grade. This school learns on a new curriculum using mostly computers and hands-on activities. It also has interactive technology in the classrooms that allow our students and teachers to connect with students and teachers all around the world. These apartments were built by engineers like Sebastian.
Sounds like a perfect place for me. How about not run for a month if I moved there? Anyways, what are the benefits of having these apartments over single-family homes?
Well, Dylan, our multi-purpose apartments are better than single-family homes because they save energy and it is easier to transfer energy to them.
That makes sense. Now, I heard you talk about commercial. How does that fit into your city?
Well, our commercial takes about 1/3 of our city. It has mostly skyscrapers as well as basics like fire, police, and medical. Our medical is a university as well, just like the local University of Washington.
I've heard of that university. When I was first coming into your city, I noticed a very interesting tourist attraction. What was it again?
Our city's biggest trade-off is modifying our city's biggest tourist attraction. This fishing pier has been replaced with an indoor water park. This water park reuses its water and is Miratoshi's biggest tourist attraction. There will also be a safer railing running from the side of the water park where you'd be able to fish in.
I'm gonna have to check that out before I leave. But how will I get there?
Well, Dylan, our city has its main transportation is its pod cars. Our pod cars are 100% energy efficient and are also 100% computer powered. They have a 0% pollution rate and keep our residents healthier and happier.
Sounds cool, but am I still able to walk around your city?
Yes, we have sidewalks all around our city, so our residents can walk, bike, or jog on.
I know I'm boring you with questions about transportation, but I have just one more. How do your emergency vehicles get around?
Well, Dylan, we have emergency vehicle lanes around our city, so our emergency vehicles can get anywhere traffic-free.
Well, thanks for answering my questions about transportation. So, Sebastian, I'm still hooked on that biodegradable bottle process. Could you explain it a little more?
Yes, the process to making our biodegradable bottles is corn kernels are left in sulfur dioxide and water more than 100 degrees. That loosens up the bonds inside the corn kernels. After a few days, the corn kernels are ready to be ground. When the kernels have been ground, the corn oil is extracted from the pure cornstarch. Then the pure cornstarch is mixed in with citric acids and you got polymer, which can be made into any plastic you want.
Sounds very scientific. What engineers are in charge of this job?
Well, Dylan, chemical engineers are in charge of this job.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Miratoshi was able to adjust from a devastating disaster, create much more efficient homes, and even make a new way of transportation. And you can't forget about the amazingly fun water park either. See you next week for a new episode of City Hunters.
Council, any questions? I see Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Wonderful presentation. So tell me a little bit more about your parks.
You want me to? Well, our parks, so we have parks on top of all of our apartments. It's these green things, I don't know if you can see them, but on top of these is parks so that any of our residents can go hang out there when like they want to. And then also by our, right here, it's kind of hard to see because we had to do it to scale, but next to our water park, we also have another city park. And this right here is just a big grass area for people to play on.
We also have like recreational areas like around here, which are like these big statues that we move.
Councilmember Banks.
So 2032?
Yes.
All right,
12 years.
I guess that's true, isn't it? So with the, especially our first responders, there's no other traffic on the roads? Everything else is in the pod?
Pod cars, yeah.
Okay, so with that, you say they're pedestrians and they can walk and bike and on the sidewalks, okay. So that's basically it then, the sidewalks and then just for first responders that are on the actual road. Very well thought out. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, that was a great presentation. My question to you is that you didn't talk a lot about it, but everything you're doing is related to sustainability. And could you talk about that relative to the city design?
Oh yeah, so our pipes are earthquake proof, and they're made of ductile iron. And you know how like pipes are like just like straight, and like whenever there's earthquakes, like the plates move and it could like crack them in half. And ours are like they clip on each other, so whenever there's an earthquake, like they move along with like when an earthquake happens. And oh, also our filtering. Okay. So we use nanotechnology to filter our water, and it was nano membranes. They soften the water, and they remove all chemicals inside of it and stuff.
Councilmember Buxton?
So did I hear you say that also you had a system inside the pipes for creating energy? Like a baffle system or something?
Yeah, so we have these pipes, like turbines, like kind of like wind turbines, but they're in the water. So when the water, because the pipes are like at a slant, so gravity pushes the water down them, and it spins the turbine, creating energy for our city.
That's fabulous. That's something that seems like somebody could do today instead of doing a future city.
I think they're doing them in Portland.
Oh, wow. Fabulous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Anyone else? I have a question. And I think this is going to involve your instructor as well. And for the benefit of the audience here, there's quite a bit of research that went into putting this together. First of all, what's the timeline of the project? And then where do you get your information and how do you know it's practical? And I guess it doesn't have to be practical because it's in the future, but, you know.
Our timeline is 100 years in the future, so we basically kind of summarized what had happened previous and how we talked about the Mountaineer exploding. We kind of briefly summarized how we were able to adjust from it and like be sustainable city. So like if another one was to happen, it wouldn't just destroy the city like it did in the past.
And we'd get like our resources from online. And then, like, we'd visit different websites, and they all had, like, similar stuff, so we just thought it would be, like, it was right.
Yeah, and our Ms. Gady gave us a slideshow from the Des Moines City Council that had a lot of information about the city now, and we used a lot of that, and we kind of just built on it to give us some new ideas.
Of the ideas that you've incorporated in your presentation, did you find anybody who's actually doing a portion of them? Who's really doing them, or is it?
Well, like Sebastian said, the pipes are being thought about right now by Portland, so we kind of stole that idea a little bit.
They're making some, I think. Yeah, it was in Portland. They were making some.
One other comment, I think that's interesting what you're saying, that you looked at the plans for the city, because we're probably going to replicate some of what you're doing, and especially the green roofs and taking advantage of space, and that's really cool.
Oh, Dan, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Council. Dan Brewer, Chief Operations Officer for the city. I'd really appreciate your presentation tonight. How old are you, gentlemen?
14.
14?
I'm 14.
Sandy, what a great job you're doing to raise future engineers. So I'd like to talk to these guys. I would like to extend an invitation to the three of you and your team to come and spend some time with us sometime this spring in our engineering department. And we can show you some of the transportation stuff we're doing and some of the green roof stuff that we're working on. And we maybe spend a morning together and we can learn some things from you guys. So.
Yeah.
A quick question, Dan. We have other students here that were part of the process as well. Would you be willing to introduce them? And would that invitation extend to
Absolutely, the whole team.
the whole team? So,
Better yet, I think if they just stand up and introduce themselves,
that would be great.
which team you guys were on. Stand up. You guys can all stand together. They did Future City with the stand here.
This is great.
Wow, future engineers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome. Let them talk. Were they going to introduce themselves first? They were going to introduce themselves, right?
Yeah, well, I hope they introduce.
Okay.
We can see if we can get them. We don't have a microphone that's portable, but let's get a picture.
Okay.
Council, you
Would
want to
you like to
stand and support them? Sure, come on over.
So go ahead and introduce yourselves again and your team.
I'm Scott Raven, and I'm on here at Tochi.
Hi, I'm Sebastian Cruz, and I'm on here at 30.
I'm Dylan Stepnick, I'm on here at Tochi.
Hi, I'm Brianna Ahmed, and I'm on Quantico. Hi, I'm Zara Estrella, and I'm on Quantico. Hi, I'm Javier Uchuling, and I'm on Quantico. Hi, I'm Tara Simmons, and I'm on Quantico.
Hello, I'm Ignacio Espartamartes, and I'm on Crystal Shores.
Hi, I'm Yao Centeno, and I'm on Crystal Shores.
Hi, my name is Alfredo Santillan, and I'm on Crystal Shores.
Hi, I'm Joe Blake, and I'm part of Crystal Shores.
And as a very small token of how proud of you that we are, I would like to give each one of you one of our city pins and to say thank you for representing our city so well. How about one more round of applause?
And Matt,
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Amazing.
Well, we're about a little over an hour in, and they do have to break down their presentation. My suggestion is that we take, is it 5, 8, well, 8, until 10 by the clock, and allow them to get that work done, and then we can move on with the rest of our agenda. Thank you again. We are on break. Okay, and is there any correspondence?
No, Mayor, no correspondence.
Okay, thank you. That takes us forward to our public comments from the public. At this time, we'll take comments from the public. When I call your name, please come to the podium, state your name and the city in which you live, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. We have 2 people signed up to speak. The first one is Mr. Rick Johnson.
Surprise, surprise. Feel like I got kicked in the gut. Tonight, the city council, and this is after, it should have been done before. I didn't know it was going to be after the vote. But tonight, the city council has the task of appointing a vacant council member to the seat by Vic Pennington to one of 7 applicants. All applicants did a remarkable job in answering each council member's questions. I'm sure any one of them could have added to the council. Just 2 months ago, the residents of Des Moines voted to remove 2 council members in re-elections. They did so to make changes. There was no personal attack on anyone. It was mainly a wake-up call to the city and the lack of transparency between council and Des Moines citizens. Tonight, we'll see if the council was listening or if they voted by way of their alliance. I think I represent many residents in their wishes that it's time for change. But if I was given a warning to the council, no threat, it would be that the city is watching. You could have voted for the city. And you, Mr. Mayor, were very unprofessional last week. I know you have it in for the 2 new council members. Why don't you 3 go out, have a Pepsi, and sit down and talk instead of argue on the dais? Go talk with them. Don't, because you show your anger and dismay. You should. You don't hide it at all.
No, I don't. I'm very transparent. Thank you.
Yeah, always transparent. Well, you don't know the word.
The next person signed up to speak is Mr. Sam Pace.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Sam Pace. I'm a realtor, and I'm also a housing specialist with Seattle-King County Realtors. I represent 7,000 realtors in King County before local governments in King County with principal responsibility for the 14 jurisdictions from Tukwila and Renton south to the Pierce County line. First, I want to offer our congratulations to Councilmember Bangs. Second, I don't get over here a lot because compared to the challenges that we confront in some of the other 39 jurisdictions, you're doing really well here. And that's what I want to talk about for just a moment. I want to compliment the city. This is a city, and I will say, if I can tag on to somebody else's success, that my wife was the former principal at Mount Rainier High School. And she was the principal at the time that it was rebuilt, moved into Olympic, and then moved back into it, and was there when it was recognized as a Washington School of Distinction. They had some significant successes during that period. And so I'm not new to this, to watching this city, and I read all of your agendas every week. This city is challenged by significant challenges that are as substantial as any of the other jurisdictions in the county. You've handled many of them much better than some of the biggest jurisdictions in the county. Seattle. But I don't want to damn you by faint praise. But because you don't have those enormous assets or enormous land masses to deal with, you end up, if I could use a baseball analogy, having to play small ball instead of always being able to try and hit a home run. And you do that better than any jurisdiction I've seen in the county, and I want to compliment you for that. As our members have watched what's happened in this county, they are increasingly concerned about the issue of public safety. And we are very pleased that you have some of the most highly respected and well-recognized police leadership in this county, in this city. One of those gentlemen is here tonight, your police chief and others. They're folks that we know and have some familiarity with, and we think you're in good hands. Finally, in the 15 seconds I've got left, I just want to indicate that we stand ready to try and work with you and assist you in connection with any housing challenges that you may have or any questions that you may have in that regard. And thank you for the opportunity to share these remarks with you.
Thank you. Okay, now we move forward to board and committee reports and council member comments, and we will start with actually, we start with Councilmember Harris because he did the flag salute.
First of all, the port package update bill looks like it's moving along swimmingly, and the website ctacnoise.info that I'm a part of has received over 100 inquiries in the last 24 hours. You know, am I eligible, and so forth. And you know, I just want to say, give them, they're just volunteers, so give them a chance to get back to you, you know, people watching. Now, I'll swing back to that. Today is a rough day for me in terms of basic democracy, and I got all kinds of emails over the, not just this meeting, but the meeting before, and I got all these comments about, like, why didn't you make a motion to stop that and do something? And I was so surprised that there are so many people in this city who are fans of, like, parliamentary procedure. It's really something. And I'll just say about that Roberts, in his little book at the end, says a couple of things that don't have anything to do with motions. He talks about how you have to let things go at the end of the meeting for the good of the group, that the group is all. And you also have to consider courtesy as being the ultimate, because again, the group is all. So when this meeting is over, I will let this go. But not right now. The port package bill, I invented, and the city fought me on it. And it was part of a narrative that I have heard in this city forever, which is like, it's impossible to fight the port. It's impossible to fight the FAA and so on. And I believe that there are a lot of things that we can accomplish that we've been told are impossible. Look at me. I am, like, not the sharpest tool in the shed. I don't have any money. You know, I look like a homeless guy. But I accomplished something, and I'm just telling you that. I don't care about, you know, anything, credit or whatever. It's just that when you're told that things, so many issues in this town are intractable, maybe it's just a question of bringing in new people to give the problems a bit of a think. And I will just close by saying that this appointment process, when I ran, what I heard from the public over and over again was that the city is tone deaf. It does not communicate well with the public. People are unhappy and they feel that the city just does whatever it wants. And so long as our balance sheet is looking good, things are great. This appointment process just proves that point. It proves that the city is completely insensitive. There were many choices that would have sustained ticked all the boxes and not antagonized half of the town. It was unnecessary to antagonize the town. And that's really my big objection to all of that stuff. I hope that going forward that we consider more what the public thinks about us, not just what we think is good for them. Thank you.
Councilmember Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, I attended the Growth Management Policy Board meeting. This year, the Growth Management, it's a sub-board for Puget Sound Regional Council, and this year they're going to be drilling down some of the details of Vision 2050 and with a specific focus on affordable housing issues this year. So it was our first meeting, just getting going. I also, our Human Services Advisory Committee met last week, and we had a fabulous presentation from a representative from King County Sexual Assault Resource Center. Love that place. Our Human Services funding supports that organization, and they support, I think, last year, 25 residents from the city of Des Moines. So a great resource for our residents. I also attended the Domestic Violence Initiative Task Force meeting down in Kent. Again, the room was packed. It was their council chambers with electeds, professionals in the arena of domestic violence advocacy. Our victims advocate, Rochelle Sims, was in attendance there. And King County Prosecutor's Office. Anyway, the subject was all around what we can do to work with victims who've been criminalized accidentally, I guess, in a way that you could say. So there's a push to begin to work with victims who've been criminalized. So moving on to those are the meetings that I attended also with Councilmember Harris and a few of our residents. We just to tag team off of what the work he's been doing, met with Representative Orwell this week to drill down some of the details on this bill. So did you want to fill the details in on that, Councilmember Harris? I think it passed unanimously in the House 97-0. 97-0. So good work on his behalf getting that going, and also for our representative Tina. She's working hard. Let's see. In regard to the consent agenda, number 3, the bulkhead and restrooms, incredibly impressed with staff and the connection with Adam Smith's office to keep that moving forward. And then this proclamation I'm really excited to make in regard to Future City. So really so thankful to have you in our community, Sandy, and so thankful to have the input that you have into these kids' lives and what it's creating for their future. So thank you so much.
Councilmember, if I
Yes.
may, just one comment. I think it's great to have citizen engagement in the legislative process.
Yes.
But it isn't fair unless we give a huge amount of credit to Representative Orwell.
Yes.
And to our legislative advocate, Anthony, who you know well.
Yes, Anthony was at that meeting as well.
And very engaged
Yes.
in assembling co-sponsors for that position and for negotiating the language that ultimately went to the port. So,
Absolutely. Hard work on that. So thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Martinelli.
Thank you all for being here. Given the legislative season is short and we haven't had committee assignments yet, I have been spending a lot of my time lobbying for several pieces of legislation, including meeting several lawmakers on behalf of House Bill 1775, which would increase resources and expand protections for children who are victims of sexual trafficking or sexual exploitation. This is an important bill, I think, that would have a really quick, immediate impact. Mayor Pini, on behalf of the city, sent out a well-written letter on the 10th to the House Appropriations Committee, and they passed the bill, thankfully. It now needs to pass both the House and the Senate. It's one of those measures that seems like it should be a no-brainer, but as Councilmember Harris said in a recent blog post, there are a lot of things in politics that seem like no-brainers but don't actually happen. So I encourage everyone to look into that measure and advocate for it. I was also very happy to see House Bill 2315, the Port Package Bill, pass unanimously. I think that Councilmember Harris deserves a lot of credit for the creation of that, way more probably than he has received. But I also know that Mr. Hempstead, our lobbyist, has also done a lot of work, and Representative Orwell has done a lot of work as well. I just want to touch briefly on the appointment. I think that those who are upset at the process, the way it all went down, are fair in that, and I think that their voters are right to keep that in their mind going forward. That being said, even though Councilmember Bangs was a beneficiary of the process, she didn't set the process, so I think that it's important for those who called for a different candidate realize that she is our council member now and she deserves respect, and I hope that people give her respect going forward. And I hope if there's a process like this in the future that this body takes public more into consideration and that we do it a little differently. And in regards to the agenda, it's all pretty simple today, pretty minor. I'm excited to support one of the items that will lead to a replacement or a refurbishing of our restroom at the marina. I think that's important and long overdue, and so I'll be happy to support that. The rest is pretty simple. That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bangs, do you want to make any comments?
I would, Mayor. Thank you. I think I stated while I was doing my presentation that there were some excellent candidates, and I want to seriously resound that again. Excellent candidates. Any one of us could do this. I appreciate the appointment, and I appreciate the support. Hopefully, moving forward, we'll have the support. I'm not sure where this anger and this vitriolic attitude is coming from. I'm not sure. I'm not going to take it personally. I do believe that we can go forward and look at some different process and procedures, but this is the process and procedure. This is the way that this council worked in the past and right now. Doesn't mean that things don't change in the future. I will say this, I'm going to work hard for the city like I have. I'm going to speak my mind when I need to. I'm not going to take offense from those who may, slip and say things that aren't necessarily appropriate, but I won't let those go. I want to make sure people understand I am in no way, shape, or form going to sit here and be disrespected by anybody, because I would not disrespect anyone else. So my feeling is I'm here for the city. I was here for the city before. Slim margin. I give Mr. Harris his due. But again, I believe we need to come together and work together as a council for the best of this city. And if we continue to say there were many, 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 many people who feel something different should have happened, again, it's not like people weren't listening. There is a process and a procedure, and there are those reasons people gave for the appointment that they made, whether I'm sitting here or Harry Steinmetz would be sitting here. People gave their reason, and I respect that. And I plan on moving forward in a very, very respectful manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the first thing I read 2 years and about a month ago when I took office my first night. This is a comprehensive plan from 1962, August of 1962. Like all other cities, Des Moines has its own assortment of land problems, some of them beyond its control. 1 mile north of Des Moines is a large international airport. Steadily increasing air traffic, flying at low altitudes, creates a nuisance and a hazard to the property in and near the approach zones of this large airport. Plans to install a second major runway paralleling the existing runway will further increase its nuisance and its hazardous effects. The city is bordered and traversed by state highways. Traffic counts on these highways and on its arterial streets indicate the daily volume of traffic is steadily increasing and will continue to increase. The downtown district of Des Moines is strung out along an arterial street. It lacks unity and it lacks off-street parking. A recent survey made by the J.C. has revealed the facts that many of the commercial structures can be classified as old and needing repair or replacement. A survey made in 1962 analyzing assessed value of the land and the buildings in the downtown area indicated that on several of the land parcels, the land itself is worth more than the commercial structure on it. The city needs sidewalks. The only thing that's changed is we got some sidewalks and a third runway. Okay, what we've been doing over the last couple years is something very strategic, and it takes a couple years. 3.5 years ago, we were bankrupt. They brought us sustainable revenue, got us out of bankruptcy, improved our credit rating, got us a reserve. Legitimate investors and developers are now, through relationships through our city and our city manager, talking to the city. In fact, in some cases, they purchased properties already. We actually have a legitimate shot to move this city forward, and it's been the reason we've made the decisions we've made. That's transparent and god-awful truth as you can get. The thing is what people need to realize is the citizens of Des Moines have been their own worst enemy. History through 1962 and even before that, as we tried to move forward in this city, what they did is they changed out people and they moved the city back. A change right now could move us back 10 years. It could break the relationships. There's a definition of insanity, and that's when you do the same thing over and over and again and expect different results. And that's what this city had done. And that's what I called out 2 years ago, and that's what I'm calling out now. We have done the structural things. It's almost like building a house. We've got our finances in order. We've leveled the ground. We're putting the foundation and the wiring and the plumbing and the gas in. This city is about to change. And some of the decisions we've made lately that have been controversial and so forth are solely for the reason that we actually have a chance to move this city forward. Nothing less. Because I've heard people, they don't care about the 4,000 jobs up there or what's downtown or the sustainable revenue. What they want to see is buildings in downtown. They want to see it thrive. For the first time, we are actually there. We are actually there. And that's what people need to understand what's going on here. Thank you.
I think you said it very well. Matter of fact, I think there were great points made up here. The only thing I want to point out is I want to give a special shout out to Representative Tina Orwell. And I know she does a lot of work with a number of other representatives down there, but 1775, she in talking with Anthony and Tina, that was very much floundering. And so I engaged Tina both on that and her other bill, and the fact is, I worked with her to find ways that we could support her, and it seems to be working. Neither bill is complete yet, but they're progressing well. And I have to say, I think it's because of the quality leadership that we have in Olympia. So I just want to take a moment and thank those folks, and as well as our legislative advocate. With that, I will move to the administrative report.
Mayor, we have no report tonight.
Okay. So will the clerk please read the consent calendar?
Item 1, approval of vouchers. Item 2, setting a public hearing to consider draft ordinance 19-112 related to code cleanup items to correct omissions, errors, and inconsistencies and to clarify City Council's intent. Item 3, North Marina parking lot, bulkhead and restroom replacement Extelnet Consulting Design Contract Supplement Agreement Number 1. Item 4, Washington State Future Cities Regional Competition. And that concludes the consent calendar, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
May, I would like to ask that the item, one of the items be
If you can
removed.
hold for a minute, I will call for that.
Sure.
Is there a motion to approve to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Deputy Mayor Mahoney and seconded by Councilmember Bangs. Now, does any council member wish to remove an item?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to remove item 2 for discussion.
Okay. Any discussion on the consent agenda as it stands? And we'll come back to item 2. All those in favor of the consent minus item 2, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have a 6-0 passage there. And we'll come back to Councilmember Harris for item 2.
Your Honor, it's only a minor, hopefully a minor thing. The item is scheduled for a hearing on March the 12th, and I was hoping that we could move that to the following meeting, if possible. I intend to be in Washington, D.C. for the summit with the Port of Seattle and other cities on various airport bills that are in the interest of Des Moines.
One moment. Well, these items are brought forward by the city. I don't know, this particular action is just to set the date. I don't, I know that, do we have a legal opinion on this?
Well, it's just a scheduling matter. I guess at this point, Councilmember Harris has, if he'd like, he could make a motion to move it to the 26th.
At this time, I don't know what else is on the agenda for the 26th, so there's an impact there, potentially.
Potentially, yes, and yes, so.
So the difficulty is you're requesting a date that I don't know what the future agenda holds at this time. So from my standpoint, I would keep it where it's at because I can't address the future agenda at this point. Councilmember Banks?
I guess I would ask the question, what within these inconsistencies and errors and omissions are, I guess, of concern?
Yes.
Well, I don't know what I don't know, but I saw a number of things regarding zoning and such that I would like to be present for, if possible.
Well, from what I know, these are cleanup items. They're correcting omissions, errors, and inconsistencies. Does our attorney have any statement?
Well, we have an agenda set. We have a number of items set for the 12th. So we have a scheduled meeting on the 12th.
Yeah.
So it's, if the council would like to decide to move this specific item to the 26th, we can check with our staff, but we also have a number of other items on the 12th as well, so.
Yeah, I guess the issue is we haven't, because we were working to fill the council, we have not had a futures meeting at this point, and that's where I guess my suggestion is I would move to keep it where it's at and take your comment as a note until the next futures meeting, and we can take a look at what we've got.
Well, there's one phone meeting, so, it's not the end of the world for me, so that's fine.
Deputy Mayor Mahoney?
No, Councilmember Harris just took the words out of my mouth. I thought that he could participate by phone possibly in
He's
this
allowed
particular
one per
case.
year, and that would work.
It is a cleanup. The one question I would ask, on my half, because in considering this, even moving it is there any harm in making a postponement? Just asking the question.
Just to be clear, the motion is to set the hearing on March 12th or soon thereafter as the matter may be heard. So if the council can approve that motion tonight, we can address with our planning, building, and public works staff about what exactly the scheduling issues would be if we moved it. So the motion as written would allow us to do either of those.
Fine.
And that way you could decide whether or not it was a.
No, it's,
meeting that
you know,
if,
I'm just asking the relevant people to, you know, see if they can push that on to the next. If you can, great. If you can't, you know, there's no point spending any more time on it.
But the motion does allow us the opportunity.
Very well.
So with that, I'll make the motion to set the public hearing to consider draft ordinance 19-112 relating to code cleanup items to correct omissions, errors, and inconsistency and clarify the city council intent. That's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I made the motion, it was seconded by Councilmember Bangs. Any further discussion?
Just to offer it up, I know it's not a second, he didn't make a motion, but I would be amenable to moving it down for the sake of Councilmember Harris as well. So just want to put that in, okay?
I don't think anybody is not amenable. We just
Yeah.
we don't know what we don't know, so we have to look at it.
Yeah.
That's all.
All right.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Okay, I'll now read the proclamation summary into the record. The Des Moines City Council hereby proclaims that the following Pacific Middle School students, along with their instructor, Sandy Gady, have demonstrated excellent in the Washington State Future City Regional Competition and invite all citizens to join in congratulating them. Really? Okay. I may need your help. Okay. Team Miratoshi, we have Dylan Stefnick, Kai Praven, Sebastian Cruz, Veta and Veta Kramer students. Team Aquatica, Abi Easterling, Maria Ahmed, Jadara Estradada Frias, Tara Simmons, students. Team Crystal Shores, Gail Centeno, Ethan Tracholakis, Alfredo Centillin, students. And then we sign the 13th day of February 2020. Okay. Now we're moving forward to new business, and we have draft resolution 20-006, the 24th Avenue South Kent Des Moines Road, SR 516 to South 223rd Street, TIB project certification of full funding. And our staff presentation is by our Public Works Director, Mr. Brandon Carver.
Thank you, Mayor Pina, members of the council, Public Works Director Brandon Carver, until Sebastian takes my job, right? He did great. Really the purpose of this brief agenda item is to provide council with a motion to certify that the city has the local match for a grant that we've received. But I kind of want to take a moment to kind of provide the council an update as to the project and also talk a little bit about the Transportation Improvement Board, which I'm going to refer to as TIB moving forward. But the project that specifically is on 24th Avenue South, and we have, so from 216th south to the Kent Des Moines Road, we have some roadway infrastructure needs where because of that long stretch, we often have to break projects or corridors up into segments. That's how we've built 216th, and we're following a similar example there. We've built 24th north of 216th, we're adjacent to the business parks, and now we're focusing on 24th south of 216th. We have broken it up into segment 1 and 2. We applied for funding on segment 2, the south piece, primarily because it was a better project with the adjacent schools and and just the opportunities that we had there. And so 24th Avenue South, as I mentioned, has been identified in our comprehensive plans, both our transportation and our capital improvement plan. The project itself will look very similar to 216th in that it'll have sidewalks, bike lanes, two-way left turn lane. We're going to make the travel lane slightly narrower just to add that traffic calming benefit. And what will be different is having some enhanced pedestrian crossings at Midway Elementary and Pacific Middle School. And of course, there's always storm drainage and illumination. Project financing, the design, right-of-way, construction, we estimate to be about $5.7 million. Our local match is going to come from three sources: our citywide traffic impact fees that we collect, our automated speed enforcement, and that's the fees collected in the school zones, not the red light camera. So the school zones that are at Midway and at Woodmont are going back into physical improvements, in this case near the schools. And then we're doing some significant surface water, a storm pipe replacement, a large storm pipe. We have some flooding issues there, and so there's some surface water funds. But the bulk of it, as you can see, is coming from TIB, or Washington State Transportation Improvement Board, to the tune of nearly $3.7 million. And we were notified just last November about that award. So that represents about 65% of the project total. So we're happy about that. I just wanted to highlight TIB has probably been, not probably, it's been our best project partner for the city over the last 30 years. We kind of did some quick tallying, and the city over the last 30 years has been awarded $26 million from TIB. And because the money is state collected, or it's not federally, it's not federal money. It's much. It's a bit less of a headache to administer, and so we like TIB a lot. You can see that those 15 projects, and I'll show you a quick map of those 15 projects, but total project cost a little over $60 million. So TIB has really almost built or provided funding for half of our transportation improvements over the last 30 years, and no other funding partner, can say that. Our most recent TIB awards, I won't go through them all. You can see there the bold one is our current award. We're currently designing a little extension on our Barnes Creek Trail that will be adjacent to Des Moines Elementary, the new Des Moines Elementary. And we're wrapping up the 216th Segment 3 out here. That's under construction, and we hope to have the final paving done as weather turns and gets drier and warmer. But those are some of the other just recent projects over the last probably dozen years. You can see the award amounts. So just a great funding partner. Visually, if you can see this, kind of shows you that $26 million award amount is kind of spread out over the city. A lot of it has been focused lately on the 216th corridor to your right. And then you can see we've added in, I don't know if that's working or not, but failed to bring a pointer, but right there, there's the most recent award. Here's 24, so right adjacent to the two schools and connecting down to Kent Des Moines Road. But just kind of gives you an idea of how much TIB has invested into our city. So I just want to take a moment to share that, and I'll leave the motion up on the screen. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer that.
Questions, Councilmember Bangs?
So there's some time frame in here that's probably of concern, and then also the remaining 35% funding. So the time frame for this is obviously going to be not during a school year.
In terms of the construction?
Yeah. Well, maybe I shouldn't ask it that way. What is the time frame?
Well, the broad time frame is we're in design or about to start design. We'll probably have an agreement brought forward to the council with our selected designer. And so we'll be in design this year and into right-of-way acquisition next year and construction in 2022. It will be very difficult to build a corridor of that length in the 2 months while school is not in session. But we will certainly be working, we could put provisions in our plan and our specifications that limit work hours, restrict work hours. We can shift, for example, lane closures till after 9 a.m. We can do some things, but there will be construction impacts. Obviously, it's a little messy, and there's an impact to the public, and there's delays, but hopefully the end product is worth it. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. But so no, I can't. We're not going to build this in 2 months or 2.5 months, just in the summer. It's a big project.
Councilmember Harris.
I have a question and a quick comment. I'll do the comment first. It would be good, there has been just no end of grousing from the public regarding Phase 3 of 216th about just these little petty things like bumps and, accessibility for seniors and so forth. And so I'm imagining there will be similar challenges with school children and parents and whatnot. And if there was a better process for people to register their, complaints or whatever, it just seemed like the construction teams were, there were just all these little needless things that were making it tough for the public. That's the comment. The question, and I'm probably being unfair, and tell me if I am, but I guess the public would ask me, okay, why are we doing this road? In other words, we do so few big road redos in this town, so why is this strategically the thing as opposed to, 30 other places?
I think that's an excellent question, and really, we couple parts to that. One, we have a transportation improvement plan which essentially identifies the priority, and ultimately the city council approves that transportation improvement plan, and we have project rankings. So as a staff, we are looking at the priorities set by the council as to what roadway projects to identify. We also tend to identify which projects may be more grant eligible or have a better chance of success. But definitely it's an ongoing conversation where we're looking at the council's priorities. We certainly have heard a lot about this corridor being, especially now that 24th is open to the north all the way through to SeaTac. We have, 2 schools, several churches on this stretch of road, and so it's a corridor that we've heard from the public as well that they would like to see improvements on, and we're happy to deliver that.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, I think the primary concern with that is improving sidewalks and safety for the kids through that whole corridor. And I think that's why this is the priority. That's the reason it was identified, I think, in the plan. And I think that's the reason it's being funded.
Yeah, you took my comment. That I think as being on that committee, Councilmember Harris, that was the big thing, is so many young children walking, and there's no shoulder, just ditches. And then as soon as the speed increased because of the improvement north of 216th, that's increased the safety issues.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Mahoney had a statement, and then we'll.
Yeah. As the chair of the Transportation Committee, at least up until we choose new ones, that was one of our priorities, is the safe roads to school. If you think about all the other schools in our city, that street is by far the least safe for our children. It's going to give the access. Yes, to your point, it's always difficulty during the construction window, but it's unavoidable for the greater good. It's about the end game here, in my opinion, and that's one of the reasons when we were evaluating them and recommended to the rest of the council that be one of the priorities. And when somebody's going to throw money at the project too, that doesn't hurt at all.
Dan Brewer?
Evening, Council. And hopefully most of your comments are done, but didn't mean to interrupt the process. But Brandon makes this sound too simple. agencies don't just walk into the door and say, here's $4 million. Okay, projects like this take a lot of work to plan and to go after. And this particular grant is one that Brandon and Andrew and the team have been working on for 4 years. We've tried it, we've modified it, we've worked it. And so $4 million is not a small feat, even from TIB. They've been a great funding partner, but these things take a long time to develop. 4 years for this particular grant alone, and then the planning before that, probably another 6 years. So it's good to get to a point where we can start building some of these things, and sometimes we just make it sound so easy, but it's not. There's a lot of work that goes into these, and so hats off to Andrew and Brandon for bringing this in.
You know, Dan, thank you for bringing that up. And I want to mention that, you know, it's interesting, when I first came here, Steve Gorchester was the executive director for Transportation Improvement Board, someone that I'd known in a previous dynamic, and he was very supportive of the city, especially around the replacement of the Redondo Boardwalk. And then Ashley Probart from the Association of Washington Cities, who's also been a friend of ours. So there's a lot of relational dynamics to this in terms of going to TIB. I think one of the things that's striking is as the, let's call it the demise of the Public Works Trust Fund occurred, TIB became really the source of resources for transportation infrastructure. And I think one of the things that Dan didn't mention that's critical in all of this is building on successes. So when they come down here and they see phase 1 and phase 2 of 216, money's available for phase 3 because the thing worked. 24th Avenue extension worked. Once again, so we have credibility with the funding source. And I think that that's what Dan's talking about, and you can't buy that. So yeah, absolute incredible work by these guys.
I just wanted to ask, I have Councilmember Buxton next, but there was a question about the impact of 216th, and I get it, because we've heard from people, you know, that the project got slowed down. And so I'm wondering about the construction windows. I think the 216th project, if I understood correctly, the overlay had to be delayed because of inclement weather?
Yeah,
Did I finish that?
yeah, short answer, yes. I mean, obviously, it's difficult to pave in the winter. There's certain guidelines, minimum temperature requirements, and obviously dryness. And so the final lift of overlay, that's generally done in warmer weather.
Okay, so I guess my question is, so we're going to be, this is big. I mean, I get it. And with sidewalks, you're going to have concrete pour, I assume, and things like that. So and I know that we are somewhat dependent upon, we've got the grant monies, but when we get them to start the project and everything else. But will the construction window be such that it is, I know you can't do it in 2 months, but that it could be done, you know, and probably not be subject to the inclement weather? Is that, I mean, just trying to find out.
Sure, and I hope we can look at that. I think lengthwise, I think segment 3, it's a pretty long project from a linear foot perspective. I don't think 24th is as long, or this segment. There's also, we've notified Highline Water District of this project, as we will the other utilities, and they just informed me literally a couple hours ago that they want to replace their water line. And so sometimes coordinating that can be a challenge. We will do our best to advertise the project with the hopes of trying to, you know, get one single construction season. I mean, that's the ideal. Anytime you have to carry over, or what we call suspend a project for winter, it's not always preferred. Sometimes you just have to do it because of the project length and size. It's a little premature for us to really know how many working days we have yet on this until we get into the details of the design. But it's certainly something we're going to, that we would prefer as a single construction season.
Yeah, my point is just, we've obviously heard that people get frustrated, especially when the manholes come above the ground and you're driving a car along there, and I mean, it's a pretty significant hit. I'm surprised we haven't had more damage reported. So to other council member points, I do the best we can to put it within a reasonable construction window and try and get it done so it wouldn't end up idle for a period of months. That would be very helpful. Councilmember Buxton.
I move to adopt draft resolution number 20-006, certifying to the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board, TIB, that full funding is secured for the 24th Avenue South, Kent Des Moines Road, SR 516, to South 223rd Street project, and further authorize the city manager to sign the TIB funding status form and the fuel tax grant agreement with TIB.
Second.
Okay, we have the motion made by Councilmember Buxton, seconded by Councilmember Martinelli. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 6-0. Okay. We are at the end of our meeting. Our next meeting will be February 27th, 2020. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I don't want you guys to fight for that. Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Buxton, seconded by Deputy Mayor Mahoney. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you for coming.